Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
ويحتل ملف الصراع بإقليم دارفور السوداني أهمية كبيرة في جدول أعمال.
Sudan's Darfur crisis will dominate Arab League leaders' agenda in the Khartoum summit. Meanwhile, the Sudanese government has called on Arab countries to provide financial aid to the African Union forces deployed in Western Sudan. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, who will not attend the summit, has expressed concern over the possibility of foreign troop deployment in the Darfur region.
قمة الخرطوم حذر من خطورة التدخل الأجنبي على فرص إحلال السلام في دارفور.
القمة العربية بالعاصمة السودانية الخرطوم تأتي بعد أيام قليلة من صدور القرار الدولي رقم 1006.
The Arab League summit opens Tuesday in Khartoum. It comes a few days after the United Nations issued resolution number 1663 calling for the deployment of UN forces in the Darfur region and thus replacing African Union forces. The Sudanese government, which disagrees with the UN resolution, has rallied support among Arab states to block any foreign troop deployment in Western Sudan. Sudan is a permanent member of the Arab League. This news came amidst mounting international concerns over the deteriorating security situation in Sudan's Darfur region. Sudan's foreign minister, Lam Akul, met with his Arab counterparts to discuss a number of resolutions that will be presented to heads of states in the summit.
I call on the African Union to continue its efforts in Darfur. I reject deployment of any foreign troops in the region without the approval of the Sudanese government. We hope that the Arab states will continue financial aid to the AU so that it may continue performing its duties.
وعلى الرغم من تحاشي وزراء الخارجية العرب الإشارة مباشرة إلى القرار الدولي الأخير بشأن دارفور فإن مسودة القرار المتوقع طرحها.
Arab foreign ministers have not commented on UN resolution number 1663 on Darfur. However, they have agreed on opposing any foreign troop deployment in the region. They drafted an Arab resolution on Darfur. It calls for keeping the African Union forces in Western Sudan. The AU will preside over future negotiations between the Sudanese government and the Darfur rebels at the Nigerian capital, Abuja. The resolution opposes the deployment of foreign troops in Western Sudan without approval of the Sudanese government. It also calls on Arab states to provide financial aid to the African forces. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, who will not attend the summit, has expressed solidarity with the Sudanese government regarding foreign troop deployment in the region of Darfur. He cautioned against any international meddling in the three-year crisis between the Sudanese government and the rebels. Hundreds of thousands of Sudanese have been killed and displaced as a result of the Darfur conflict. Mubarak has blamed foreign intervention for the escalation in the region. He confirmed that it has complicated the situation further in this war-torn region. Mubarak and Arab League leaders' standpoints have strengthened the position of the Sudanese government of al-Bashir. According to observers, this Arab support to Sudan will not be strong enough to curb international and U.S. pressure on Khartoum. They believe that Arab leaders should intensify efforts in the region to improve human and security conditions there. The African Union forces will complete their peacekeeping mission in Darfur until September 2006. Meanwhile, the Sudanese government and the rebels will resume talks regarding a number of outstanding issues in the Nigerian capital, Abuja.
على أن يتم ذلك بالتوازي مع تسوية النقاط العالقة بين طرفي المفاوضات في العاصمة النيجيرية أبوجا.
أسعد
The Palestinian Legislative Council has given the vote of confidence to the new Hamas government. Ismail Haniyeh will be the new Palestinian Prime Minister. In a special parliamentary session in Ramallah and Gaza, 71 parliament members voted in favor of the new government, while 36 opposed and 2 abstained. The head of the Legislative Council, Aziz Duwaik, announced the vote of confidence. He also congratulated the Palestinian people and President Mahmoud Abbas for the success of this democratic process.
حتى لا يكون هناك لبس أو غموض، هل الحكومة الفلسطينية العاشرة برئاسة رئيس
Does this new 10th Palestinian government get the vote of confidence under the leadership of the designated Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh? All those in favor, please stand up. Mr. Secretary General, please start the count. To our brothers in Gaza, all those in favor, please stand up.
وإخوتي في غزة رجاء الوقوف والعد لمن كان مع هذا السؤال.
Mr. President, we have 30 votes in favor of the new government in Gaza.
Okay, 30 votes in Gaza and 41 in the West Bank are in favor of the new government.
41 في الضفة. من ضد رجاء الوقوف هنا وفي غزة؟
All those in the West Bank and Gaza opposed to the new government, please stand up. A total of 36 votes, 13 in Gaza and 23 in the West Bank, voted against the new government. And now, how many were abstaining?
ممتنع. يقف لو سمحت هنا وفي غزة. لا أحد.
None abstained in Gaza, and 2 have abstained in the West Bank.
The designated Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh has expressed disappointment over the U.S. State Department's decision to turn down his invitation to hold talks between Hamas and the International Quartet. In a statement issued before the Palestinian Legislative Council during a session on the vote of confidence to the new government, he criticized Washington and accused it of favoring Israel over the Palestinians. He called on the American administration to be more reasonable and to refrain from issuing statements against a legitimate Palestinian government which was voted in by the people. The U.S. State Department has turned down an invitation by the Palestinian designate Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh to hold talks between Hamas and the International Quartet.
Israeli army and police forces were on high alert today as the country voted for the 17th Knesset elections. The Kerem Shalom, and the Erez border crossings between Israel and the Gaza Strip remain closed. IDF units also tightened a closure on the West Bank. Some 22,000 police officers and border police troops deployed across the country, with the main points of concern being Jerusalem and the West Bank seam line. The leading candidates voted early this morning and urged supporters to come out and cast their ballots. There was a high voter turnout early in the day in the Orthodox communities and in the settlements, but the Arab sector appeared to be lagging behind. Leah Stern has more.
Most of the candidates voted early, beginning with acting Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and his wife Eliza, who were the first to vote at the Beit HaChinuch school down the block from their home in Jerusalem. Longtime labor leader, now Kadima stalwart Shimon Peres, voted in the Arazim school in Ramat Aviv near his home.
I think the public feels there is a need for a central party that can take decisions, that can handle the very complicated issues.
Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, who founded Kadima, remained hospitalized at Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital. His son Omri said his father was on his mind while he cast his ballot. Labour Party leader Amir Peretz and his wife Achlama cast ballots at a polling station in their hometown of Sderot. Shortly before doing so, Peretz paid a visit to his former kindergarten teacher, Holocaust survivor Pierre Achramel, who gave him a blessing of hope.
I think that he has a very good heart and he will be very good for Israel.
Likud leader Benjamin Netanyahu, accompanied by his wife Sarah, voted at a school in Rehavia where his son attends. Bibi smiled and shook hands with poll workers, saying that Likud is the best hope for Israel's future and can best be guaranteed in terms of security and the economy. Avigdor Lieberman, Yisrael Beitenu leader, voted in his hometown, the settlement of Nokdim. He expressed hope that the election polls are correct in predicting a strong showing for his party.
I don't like to guess what it will be, but the result, I have enough reasons to believe that the result will be good for us.
In the Arab sector, who comprises an estimated 20% of the population, many opted to stay at home today. Some said that their votes really didn't count for much. As a result, turnout among Israel's 600,000 eligible Arab voters could be thin. 4 Arab parties are in the running. A few candidates from the village of Kfar Qassam hope to be elected.
We have 2 representatives which we sent to Knesset from Kfar Qassam. It's very important for Kfar Qassam to come and to elect them people.
And for many Jewish settlers in the West Bank, today's elections are a do-or-die battle for their future. In what has become the central issue of the campaign, they are fighting a plan by Olmert to remove isolated settlements as part of his drive to craft Israel's final borders by 2010.
You've got people who want to give away the country, who are really in the lead. So we have to be very careful and vote.
3,000 prisoners also voted today. Under Israeli law, they have the right to cast ballots, just like their compatriots on the outside. And finally, President Moshe Katsav and his wife Gila voted at the School for the Arts in the capital. The president urged everyone to go out and vote, saying, quote, "Don't let others decide for you what the fate of the country should be." He also said that he plans on beginning consultations on the new government even before the official election results are in. This is Leah Stern for IDA News.
Arabs living in the Palestinian Authority territories reacted coolly today to the Israeli election. Most believe their lives will not change regardless of which party is asked to form the next government, although some expressed hope that the peace process would be re-energized following the election.
We are not interfering in the process of the election. On the Israeli side, we are not differentiating between this party or that. All of them are responsible about our miserable condition. All of them committed crimes against the Palestinian people.
We have always maintained our respect for the democratic choice of the Israeli people. And we have always maintained that whoever the Israeli people elect can be our partner. We hope that once the dust settles down, that we would see the formation of an Israeli government that's willing to resume negotiations. And we hope that this government will abandon the ways of dictation and unilateralism.
As a Palestinian, I think that everything will happen today is going to be the same for us, because we tried each party, the Likud party, the Labour party, and now we have a new party, which is Kadima. I think that Kadima is it's going to be worse than the Likud party, and it's going to be worse than the Labour party. So I think what will happen to us is going to be going backwards.
And for those not watching the polls, there's something else to look out for. An eclipse will be passing over Israel tomorrow afternoon and will cast an 80% shadow. Parts of Brazil, Africa, and Western Asia will see a total eclipse, including Turkey. Total eclipses often last only a few seconds, but tomorrow's shadow will stay just over 4 minutes in the Libyan desert. It's important not to look directly at the sun during an eclipse, as its rays can permanently damage the retina of your eyes.
Arab citizens living in Israel are heading to the voting polls to choose their representatives in the Knesset. 4 Arab parties are participating in the Israeli elections. 3 of them are already represented in the current Knesset. Arab Palestinians living in Israel are a minority living amidst a Jewish majority. On election day, these villages are like any other Israeli city. The voter turnout has decreased throughout the day. Attention being paid to the elections would have been non-existent had Arab parties not participated. They are trying to create a different political environment. We found people who headed to the voting booths with clear enthusiasm.
The presence of the Arab parties within the Knesset is the most important factor in enabling Arab parties to participate in the elections.
We want our rights. We want rights just like the rights of the Jewish people. We want either equal rights or we do not want to take part in the system.
Arab-Israeli participation in the 2003 elections did not exceed 63%, which resulted in gaining 8 seats in the Knesset. According to the leadership of 3 central Arab parties, the main goal of these elections is to increase voter turnout among Arabs. Thus, they carried out wide-scale election campaigns in various Arab cities.
The Israeli government represents the interests of the Israeli society as it sees it. The Israeli government is made up of Zionist parties that are unable to represent the Arabs. In general, all of us have been able to isolate the Zionist parties. The main competition is between Arab parties and deciding who's better able to represent the interests of Arab constituents in the Knesset.
Besides the fact that Arab Israelis are voting based on party platforms of future policies, especially relating to the Palestinian issue in the West Bank and Gaza and the drawing of the Israeli borders, Palestinians living in Israel also have their own local concerns.
They are voting to legitimize their presence in the political arena in response to all those who want to force them out of their country or force them out of political decisions or political positions.
With every election, Arab citizens living in Israel face bigger challenges, especially under the shadow of official Israeli policies that aim at eliminating their presence.
Iraqis and Iraqi political leaders have expressed resentment and anger over al-Husseini's massacre and the escalation in the level of violence in their country. They called on concerned authorities to open an investigation into the massacre. Meanwhile, the Shiite religious institution accuses the occupation forces of trying to stir chaos among Iraqis in order to hamper efforts aimed at forming the new government.
Iraqis have become the target of the occupation forces on a daily basis. The latest attack targeted civilian Iraqis who gathered at a mosque to perform sundown prayers. Also, a roadside bomb exploded targeting worshippers at dawn prayers. The Hosseini Mustafa massacre was committed by units of the occupation forces for unknown reasons. The victims were found in a pool of blood in and around the Hosseini mosque. The perpetrators were determined to kill everyone in sight.
دخلوا على الحسينية عن طريق الاقتحام وقتلوا الحرس بالباب.
The occupation forces stormed the Al-Husseini compound, killed the young security guards at the door, fired sound bombs, opened fire randomly, and planted explosives around the shrine. We dismantled some of the explosives. They killed nearly 20 Iraqis, injured 5 or 6, and detained more than 45 others.
حصرا يعني والشهداء تجاوز ال20 شهيد.
In another development, a roadside bomb exploded on the canal bridge near the city of Al-Sadr, resulting in a number of casualties.
A roadside bomb targeting a passenger vehicle exploded in the canal bridge, martyring 2 civilians and injuring 6 others.
Iraqis and Iraqi political leaders demanded an investigation into crimes committed by the occupation forces. They accused these forces of trying to hamper efforts at forming the new government.
Obviously, the occupation forces are trying to undermine the political process in Iraq, hamper efforts aimed at forming the new government, intimidate the Iraqi people, and create a new crisis. The timing of the Al-Husseini massacre proves that the perpetrators were trying to intimidate the Iraqi people and stir sectarian strife.
The massacre at Al-Husseini Mustafa is yet another chapter which has been added to the criminal files of the American forces. These recent American aggressions came amidst ongoing violence and security deterioration in Iraq. The latest incident, the Al-Husseini massacre by the American occupation forces and the roadside bomb explosion by the terrorists in the city of Al-Sadr, will not be the last ones added to Iraqi's security file. Consequently, this escalation reflects negatively on the efforts aimed at forming the upcoming government.
The Iraqi public has reacted to the Arab summit that is being held in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Some citizens expressed their hope that the summit will pass active resolutions. Others stressed the need to pass a realistic resolution that arises from the needs of the Iraqi people.
The Iraqi public does not talk much about previous Arab summits or the current one. With the start of the 18th Arab Summit, not too many Iraqis are pinning their hopes on the results of the meeting. They say that the Arab role is not sufficient in Iraq and it does not have an impact on the situation.
I call it an invitation to sip soft drinks and eat lunch. It is the meeting for the heads of states to get to know one another. They are brought together on issues that concern their own personal interests and not the interests of the Arab people. What has the Arab public gained from previous or current Arab summits? On the issue of Iraq, the Arab summit, since its inception through today, did not offer the Iraqi people anything.
I don't expect anything from Arab countries that will serve Iraqi interests. From the beginning, 35 years ago or more, they didn't do anything except to serve their own personal interests. It is impossible for them to do something in our interests.
During the Arab Summit, Arab leaders intend to pass a resolution confirming the Arab role in Iraq and calling on Iraqi political factions to quickly form a national unity government. Another group of Iraqis emphasized the need for Arabs to play a more active role in Iraq by taking practical and realistic initiatives.
With every Arab summit, we hope that they come up with something new. We say, God willing, they can give us something good after this long period we lived through.
I hope that they can change the situation in Iraq with respect to improving security and the economy. We want them to be active participants. We don't want just empty talk. We want Arab countries to speak and act. God willing, in future Arab summits, something will be achieved for Iraq. I hope that the future Arab summit will be held in Iraq.
Perhaps the Arab role will be in solidarity with Iraq. Some observers of Iraqi affairs believe that an important document must be on the Arab leaders' negotiation table, addressing various issues, most importantly, security, politics, and the economy. In this way, it will be an Arab-Arab summit and an Arab-Iraqi summit at the same time.
Many depressing cases in Iraq go unnoticed every day. The story of Mohammed Hamza Hassan, an Iraqi teenager, is living proof of such a case. Mohammed was hit by a stray bullet that paralyzed his hands and legs. He came from a poor family that could not afford his medical treatment, which compounded his pain and suffering.
Mohammed Hamza Hassan Mohammed Hamza Hassan, a 14-year-old Iraqi boy, is a victim of the Iraqi war, which does not discriminate between young and old. Prior to his injuries, Mohammed has lived a normal life just like other Iraqi children. He attended school and played with his teenage friends. However, his life turned upside down after he was hit by a stray bullet while sitting on his house porch. He is now paralyzed and unable to move both his hands and legs. Mohammed told his story to Al-Sumaria TV.
My uncle and my cousin transported me to a local hospital. Hospital officials transferred me to the Baghdad Medical Center due to the seriousness of my injuries. The doctors took x-rays and located a bullet fragment. After they took the bullet out, it was determined that it was an American-made bullet. The doctors told me that I was paralyzed and I could not move my hands and legs.
Mohammed's father is unemployed, and his hand was amputated due to injuries sustained during the war. Due to his disability and poor financial status, the father could not afford treatment for his ailing son.
I feel helpless. What can I do? I cannot seek medical treatment for my son due to financial problems. My son's condition has compounded my problems 10 times over.
Mohammed's mother, who has been patient despite her husband and son's medical conditions, has called on the Iraqi Prime Minister Ibrahim al-Jafari to start a fund for her son. She hopes that one day Mohammed will recuperate and be able to walk and move his hands. We have used all our savings on my son's medical bills. Mohammed's father is a disabled man and his salary is not enough. What can I tell you? I am also ill, but I cannot seek medical attention because we do not have any money. We are in a situation that cannot be tolerated. What can I tell you? I ask God to spare my life so I can take care of my son. Al-Sumaria News Channel, which is trying to raise awareness about these tragic and human cases, hopes that Mohammed and his family's cry for help will not go unanswered by Iraqi officials.
Security Council agreed to ask Secretary General Kofi Annan to greatly speed planning for a new UN force in Sudan Western Darfur region. Diplomats said the text of a draft resolution put forward by Washington and set to be adopted by the 15-nation Council on Friday would give Annan until April 24 to prepare a range of options for a United Nations operation in Darfur. It would also ask the UN leader to prepare recommendations within a month on how a separate UN peacekeeping mission in southern Sudan would help crack down on Uganda's notorious Lord's Resistance Army, an armed group that has wreaked havoc in the region for decades. An African Union peacekeeping force of some 7,000 troops is already in Darfur seeking to protect villagers from marauding Arab militias that the United Nations and the United States say are being armed by the Khartoum government, an allegation the Sudanese government denies. But the poorly equipped and under-financed AU force has proven ineffective in ending the violence, prompting Annan to call for its replacement by a bigger UN force. Sudan's government, however, has said it does not want UN troops in Darfur until a peace agreement is reached in talks taking place in the Nigerian capital, Abuja. The African Union's Peace and Security Council, bending under pressure from Sudan, voted this month to extend its mission in Darfur through September 30, while affirming in principle its plan to eventually hand off to a UN force. U.S. Ambassador John Bolton said this week he wanted the new resolution to accelerate planning and lay the groundwork for a smooth transition to a UN force in Darfur without waiting for formal approval from the AU and Sudan. The text would also extend the mandate of the UN peacekeeping mission in the south, due to expire on Friday.
The views expressed on Mosaic are not those of Link TV or its sponsors, but of the broadcasters themselves. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, which promotes journalism excellence worldwide and invests in the vitality of 26 U.S. communities. and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation and Henry and Virgilia Dakin. This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. For a transcript of this program, to watch streaming video, or for instructions on how to receive Link TV in the United States, visit linktv.org.